Between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., the world looks silent, but it isn't. Something ancient moves through the darkness. Something that watches you when you cannot watch back. While your eyes are closed, theirs are wide open. And what they search for is not your body, but the doorway inside your spirit. So the real question is, what enters when you sleep? There is a reason that every ex-occultist, every spiritual survivor, and every student of the unseen agrees on one thing: the night is not empty. Between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., a stillness falls over the physical world, but the spiritual world becomes louder. Not with sound, but with movement. Not with noise, but with intention. I remember this hour from a life I no longer recognize. A life tied to shadows, rituals, and forces that demanded obedience. And in those years, I learned something most people never realize. Demons do not wait for daylight. They prefer the hours when your spirit drifts, when your guard collapses, when your awareness dissolves. They prefer the hour when even your heartbeat slows. Darkness studies silence the way a hunter studies the wind. It waits for weakness the way fire waits for oxygen. 3 TOs on 3 a.m., 3D59 a.m., it finds it. In the unseen world, sleep is not rest. Sleep is exposure. It is the moment when your thoughts are quiet, your senses lowered, and your spirit is closest to its raw state. This is why nightmares intensify, why sudden fear wakes people with no explanation, why some feel a weight on their chest or a presence beside the bed. The unseen does not always attack violently. Sometimes it enters gently, subtly, like a thought drifting into your mind that wasn't yours, like a memory that returns with unnatural sharpness, like a fear that feels borrowed, not born. And yet not all attacks begin inside. Some begin around you. Imagine your home as a fortress. Every door is a boundary, every wall a shield. But when you sleep, that fortress depends on what you carried into the night. Demons do not need permission to approach, but they need cracks to enter. Those cracks appear through anger, unresolved guilt, emotional exhaustion, and spiritual weariness. They look for the moment your mind sinks into its deepest layer. That layer where dreams form, where imagination and memory blend. They approach that layer the way thieves approach windows, quietly, patiently, waiting for the right second. The dream realm is not fiction. It is a mirror, a battlefield, a testing ground. Spirits attempt to shape dreams the way sculptors shape clay. They twist images, distort familiar places, change the faces of loved ones into strangers. They plant ideas that feel like nightmares but behave like seeds. And what is planted at night often shows its fruit in daylight. Fear you cannot explain. Sadness with no source. Anxiety that wakes with you like a shadow attached to your chest. But here is the hidden truth. Demons do not attack you because you are weak. They attack because you carry something powerful, something they cannot steal, only influence. The human spirit is the one thing they cannot fully touch unless permission is given. So their strategy is not to conquer. They whisper to weaken. They visit to drain. They shape dreams to confuse. They pressure the spirit to bend. The analogy is simply imagine the ocean. A single wave cannot break a rock. But wave after wave, night after night, can shape it, soften it, weaken it. And eventually the rock becomes sand. Their goal is the slow erosion of the soul. But there is another layer, a deeper truth. Not every presence you feel at night is darkness. Sometimes the heaviness is a warning, a spiritual alarm, a signal that something in your life needs closing, cleansing, or strengthening. This is why spiritual warfare is not a battle fought with hands. It is fought with awareness, with discipline, with clarity, with understanding. When you know the pattern of the enemy loses the power of surprise. The night becomes less frightening when the truth becomes visible. Because once you understand what watches you, you also understand what protects you. There is a moment in the night when everything becomes still, when the world goes silent and the air feels heavier than usual. This moment is never random. It happens between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. The hour ancient cultures called the dividing line between the living and the unseen. In the realm of spiritual warfare, this is the hour when darkness studies you, not with eyes, but with intention. Demons do not storm into a life blindly. They are not chaotic shadows rushing with noise and fury. No, they are watchers, calculated, strategic. They are hunters of cracks, not walls. Because no wall breaks in one blow, but a crack grows quietly. In my past, before I left the occult, I witnessed something most people never imagine. Darkness does not look for power, it looks for access. It waits for you to be tired, emotionally worn, spiritually numb. Those moments when your mind feels foggy and your heart feels heavy. And in the late hours of the night, when you drift in sleep, your natural defenses fall. Your spirit is still present, but your awareness is dimmed. This is the moment demons search for openings, a crack in faith, a wound that never healed, a fear you pretend doesn't exist, a secret shame you bury under silence. Every human carries fractures, trauma, guilt, failures. Demons know these better than you think. Not because they read minds, but because they read patterns. And between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., the veil thins enough for them to test your weak edges. Sometimes it comes as unexplained heaviness in the chest. Sometimes as a sudden wave of sadness for no reason. sometimes as waking up with a sense of dread you cannot explain. These signs are not coincidences. They are pressure points, probes, attempts to expand the cracks so they become gateways. Darkness behaves like water. It does not attack where the wall is strong. It slips through the smallest gap, the tiniest opening, the overlooked weakness. And once inside, it spreads quietly. A tiny fear becomes a daily anxiety. A moment of doubt becomes a habit of overthinking. A single painful memory becomes a recurring emotional wound. This is how access works. Darkness does not need permission. It needs an invitation disguised as vulnerability. People often wonder why attacks come at night, why spiritual heaviness often arrives when the world is quiet. The answer is simply distraction dies in silence. Your mind is no longer busy. Your spirit is exposed, and your emotional cracks rise to the surface like marks on water. Demons notice what you don't. They read what your soul tries to hide. They feed on what you avoid confronting. But here is the deeper truth. Cracks do not make you weak. They make you human. The danger is not the crack itself, but the lack of awareness. When you know your wounds, they cannot be used against you. When you deny them, darkness finds ownership. This is why spiritual discipline matters. Prayer is not a ritual, it is reinforcement. Self-reflection is not weakness, it is armor. Every healed wound closes a doorway. Every confessed fear strengthens the wall. Darkness survives only where you leave something unguarded. Between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., demons search for cracks, because cracks reveal two things: where you are hurt and where you can rise. The same place darkness tries to enter becomes the same place light can rebuild. What they target is what God intends to transform. And this is why awareness is powerful. When you understand the hour, the atmosphere, the weight, the shift, darkness loses its subtlety. What was once an invisible attack becomes a visible warning. The hour of darkness is not just a danger, it is exposure, revelation, a mirror showing where healing must begin. And once you see the cracks, you are no longer at the mercy of what hides in the night. There is a strange moment that happens just before waking. Your body is asleep, but your spirit is listening. Your ears hear nothing, but your mind feels everything. This moment is fragile, thin, and unprotected. And demons know it well. In the occult, we called it the quiet gap, the final doorway where whispers can enter without making a sound. This is the moment before consciousness returns, before awareness rises, before the shield of logic comes back online. It is the moment when the enemy speaks without speaking. People often wake up anxious and don't know why. They wake up sad without a reason, angry without a cause, fearful without a memory. These emotions do not appear out of nothing. They are planted, whispered, slipped into the cracks of the subconscious when the spirit is drifting between sleep and awakening. The whispers are not words. They are impressions, suggestions, emotional seeds. A thought that doesn't feel like yours. A feeling that doesn't match your life. A heaviness that doesn't belong. Demons do not need to shout. They only need to nudge, because the smallest whisper becomes a belief if it enters at the right moment. In my past, I witnessed how spirits communicate. They do not speak in language. They communicate in influence. They push emotional energy into a person the way wind pushes a door. Soft enough to be unnoticed, strong enough to change direction. And when the body is sleeping, the mind is in a dreamscape, and the spirit is exposed, the whispers enter like fog. They do not come through hearing. They come through vulnerability. These whispers aim for one thing: agreement. Not spoken agreement. Silent agreement. If you wake with fear and accept it, the whisper succeeded. If you wake with shame and carry it into your day, the whisper rooted itself. If you wake with hopelessness and assume it's your own emotion, the whisper entered fully. This is why some people wake up defeated before the day even begins. They think they are the source of their own sadness. They think they created their own anxiety. But they never question the timing. Why does the heaviness come before sunrise? Why does the fear appear in the early hours? Why does the sadness show up when the mind is weakest? Because demons are strategic. They plant emotions before the conscious mind wakes, so the person believes, this is me, this is my thought, my feeling, but it's not. It is an infiltration disguised as self-awareness. The most dangerous spiritual attack is the one that feels like your own voice. But here is the deeper truth. Waking is spiritual warfare. The moment your eyes open, the battle has already begun. And the one who recognizes the whispers, who questions the emotional intruders, breaks the cycle. Awareness destroys infiltration. When you acknowledge, this feeling is not mine, the whispered seed dies. Every morning is a doorway. Either darkness enters quietly, or the spirit awakens loudly. And the one who understands the whispers will never wake up the same again. Dreams are not fiction. Dreams are not random. Dreams are not meaningless. They are a realm, an environment where the spirit walks while the body sleeps. And in spiritual warfare, dreams become battlegrounds. Between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., the dream realm opens wider than usual. Your thoughts move freely, your emotions shift, your will weakens. This is where demons interfere, not by force, but by influence. In my past life inside the occult, I learned that dreams are used as classrooms, prisons, testing fields, and traps. Spirits enter not to entertain, but to manipulate. They shape scenarios that trigger fear, guilt, lust, anger, or confusion. These emotions weaken the spirit. A nightmare is not always an attack, but many attacks disguise themselves as nightmares. Have you ever dreamed of falling, running, being chased, drowning, or losing control? These dreams reveal spiritual vulnerabilities. They expose inner wounds. They show where your spirit is still fragile. Demons use these moments to study you, to test how you respond, to see what emotions can be used to influence you when you're awake. Dreams often reflect your inner world, but the enemy knows how to twist that reflection into something darker. They take a memory and corrupt it. They take a fear and exaggerate it. They take a desire and distort it. They take a weakness and magnify it until it feels overwhelming. Why? Because whatever controls you in your dreams gains power over your waking thoughts. Some dreams carry weight long after you open your eyes. This is not accidental. It is intentional spiritual residue, a nightmare that steals peace, a dream that steals confidence, a vision that steals clarity. These are not harmless illusions. They are testing grounds, attempts to mark your spirit. But dreams can also reveal spiritual truth. A dream that exposes a hidden fear is showing you where healing is needed. A dream that exposes a weakness is revealing where the enemy plans to strike. A dream that awakens spiritual awareness prepares you for the invisible battles ahead. The most important truth about dreams is this: they respond to your spiritual state. If you go to sleep in fear, the dream becomes fear's playground. If you go to sleep in spiritual strength, dreams become protected. If you go to sleep emotionally wounded, dreams become vulnerable. Dreams test your spirit because the enemy wants to shape your identity without your permission. But the moment you understand that dreams are spiritual terrain, not mental cinema, you stop being a passive observer. You become a guardian of your rest, a protector of your subconscious doorways. The dream realm does not belong to darkness, but darkness will claim it if you leave it unguarded. Some attacks bruise the body, some disturb the mind, but the most dangerous attacks do something far deeper. They mark the soul. These marks are invisible, but they change everything. They influence emotions, decisions, relationships, identity, and self-worth. And they often come silently in the night. When demons attack between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., their goal is not to scare you. Fear is only the doorway. Their real objective is to mark you, to leave something behind, a spiritual fingerprint, a shadow on the inside, a heaviness that follows you through the day without explanation. These marks do not appear instantly. They form through patterns night after night, a whisper accepted, a fear embraced, a dream believed, a crack unhealed. Marks begin as subtle emotional shifts. A person who once smiled easily suddenly feels numb. Someone who was confident begins to second guess themselves. Someone who was spiritually strong becomes inconsistent. Someone who was mentally clear becomes confused. These changes feel internal, but they are not born from the person. They are inserted, influenced, crafted. A mark on the soul is like a stain on glass. You can still see through it, but everything looks tinted. Life appears darker, heavier, distorted. You don't realize it's there until you compare the before with the after. People often say, I don't feel like myself anymore. They blame stress, life, circumstances. But deep down, something spiritual shifted. In the occult world, we recognized these marks clearly. They were emotional binding points, areas where demons could return, attach, influence, and manipulate without resistance. A marked soul reacts differently to life. It overthinks. It fears the future. It expects loss. It imagines danger. It struggles to trust anyone, even God. These marks grow stronger through silence. The moment you ignore spiritual heaviness, it deepens. The moment you pretend weakness doesn't exist, the shadow expands. Demons only need one thing to maintain a mark: your lack of awareness. But here is the truth most people never hear. Marks can be removed, not by pretending they aren't there, not by drowning them with distractions, but by confronting the emotional roots they cling to. Healing breaks spiritual sequences. Awareness breaks spiritual cycles. And once the mark is removed, the enemy loses his returning path. Every mark becomes a lesson. Every wound becomes a weapon. Every scar becomes a doorway for light. Darkness marks what it fears losing. When you rise, the marks fall away. And the same soul that was targeted becomes the soul that cannot be touched again.